Bob Widener.
Bob Widener, 2117 Smith Avenue in Chesapeake. I have a package that I'd like to get passed out before I start, if we could. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, and city staff, and Norfolk residents. I am Bob Widener, two-term past president of Tidewater Builders Association and the current chairman of our Norfolk Municipal Affairs Committee. I'm addressing you tonight on behalf of Tidewater Builders Association to clarify our involvement and to register our concerns in reference to the proposed zoning ordinance brought before you tonight. We have been heavily involved directly with city staff for the past year and a half, going over countless details of the proposed ordinance, and would like to thank the staff for their willingness to provide whatever time possible to review in great detail several areas of the ordinance. We have met regularly with city staff right up until the point the ordinance was put in its final draft, public draft format, and no other changes could be discussed after that point. While we were able to address several items, several issues, the overall voluminous size and complexity of the document made it practically impossible to cover all of the ordinance. Thus, there remain several areas that need to be addressed prior to its being passed. If implemented as written, this ordinance will have a significant impact on an already strained city staff, thus ultimately increasing city cost and creating a major time delay in construction, development, redevelopment, and private enterprise projects in the city of Norfolk, thus driving a slowdown in economic development. To date, there has been no significant study of the cost, efforts, or time that will be needed to comply with these new regulations, but they will no doubt be enormous, which of course creates the single biggest concern among the business community of the city. Unfortunately, the citizens of Norfolk, especially homeowners, will carry the brunt of the final cost, a segment of the citizenry that can least afford it. The building industry fully understands the need for and is fully open to well thought through codes and ordinances that are clear, concise, and result in an environment that is conducive. So based on these points, I would ask that the council consider a 90-day deferral to allow such time as needed to revise the problem areas that would result in an ordinance that is strong, easily implemented from both the building industry and the city side. And we do stand ready to provide whatever time and expertise that is needed to accomplish that goal.
So Bob, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You have the document in front of you, I see.
Yes, sir.
So do you have specific provisions or edits or adjustments or amendments that you want to propose?
Well, the packet that I handed out, page 3 and 4, list our major concerns.
Okay.
We tried to keep those concise because, again, we could have been here all night.
George or Lenny, have you seen what he's proposing? All right, so can you make sure that George and Lenny, you can take my copy if you want.
There's
Extra,
extras.
okay.
There's extras.
Okay. All right, and have you proposed these amendments or provisions prior to tonight? Have you?
We met regularly right up until the point that the document was made public, or the public draft was finalized. We were told at that time there's no further changes or communication. There's no need to communicate on it anymore because it is now going before public forums to be reviewed by the public and then proceed on to City
Mr.
Council.
Smeagol.
Just to let you know, there was discussion about this in our informal session. Both Councilwoman Williams and I, Graves, excuse me, were asking some of the same questions that you presented to us. What we've asked for is there's not enough support to delay this tonight, but that we will work with, planning will work with TBA on setting up some meetings to look at some of your individual concerns and bring any amendments back to council as we continue going forward.
Mrs. Graves.
I would like to know who told you that there was no more need to discuss this. Who said that to you? Because I see George shaking his head that never happened. So I'd like to know who said that to you.
Well, it was in our staff meetings with George and Jeremy and Bobby. Once it reached the point that it became a public draft, it was made clear to us at that point there was no need to, there would be no further changes be made after that point. And we understood it because it was then going before the public to be reviewed in all these hearings.
Sir, as
Let Angela finish. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I find that very difficult to believe. I'm just saying to you, I find it very simply because we have amendments prepared this evening that we're prepared to vote on based on conversations and changes that have been made. As you stated or someone stated, it is a living, breathing document, which is always eligible for change. And that is one of the things that we spoke about earlier in our informal session, that we want to make sure that the planning department is open to change. And also, I would just like to say that just because you ask for it doesn't mean that it will be amended, but there's always room for conversation.
Oh, we understand that.
Okay. Ms. McClellan?
I'm sorry, sir. I assume, having been past president, you are a builder and you've gone through the planning commission and zoning changes
Yes.
and come to city council. And
Yes.
you know, in that process, between the time when the planning commission votes on something and something comes to city council, there's always room for change and discussion with city council. The planning commission voted unanimously on this document in late October or November, so almost 90 days ago. In that time frame, with the exception of one or two folks who contacted me individually, I have not heard anything from the Tidewater Builders Association. And I understand there was a meeting last week that was scheduled with the TBA that was canceled by the TBA to meet with the planning department. So I'm having some challenges on this idea of a 90-day
Well, let
extension.
me see if I can help you with those.
Thank you.
The meeting last week, because of all the weather and issues, wasn't canceled. It was just deferred until February something. So that meeting's still in place.
Great.
Our regularly quarterly scheduled
Okay.
Norfolk Municipal Affairs Committee, where we meet with all the department heads and go over any issues.
Okay.
And you're right, any kind of zoning, rezonings, that kind of thing that we come before city council as a developer or a builder, there is a lot of discussion. We've never been through an ordinance change like this. So we have literally gone through this thing. Our group knows as much about this ordinance as city staff does. We have been through it line by line, detail by detail. We've continually are asked, can you submit something? Can you condense this 811 pages down to some format that we can grasp, because nobody wants to read it. Nobody wants to spend that kind of time. Have you read it? Have you read this entire
No, not an
document?
entire, how many members are in the TBA?
Oh, 600.
Well, maybe if each took 2 pages, you could divvy it
Yeah.
up. I would just say, though, in all honesty, I realize this is a very big document. I appreciate that. And I think that what we've tried to say is if there's an egregious issue that should hold us up, then we should not vote on it tonight. I don't believe that is the case. I do believe, though, that there will be amendments and changes in the future. So I appreciate your input with them.
Well,
So
I would
in all
like-
seriousness, thank you for coming
Sure.
down and letting us know what
Sure,
your
I
thoughts
would
are.
like to
Mr.
say.
Spiegel has a question, sir.
I just want to say, Tidewater Builders Association is not on trial here. And whatever the communication issue was
Yeah.
on your end or whatever, we discussed this already, and there is a compromise that we are going to move forward and vote on this tonight, and that we will arrange time to meet with TBA to continue addressing concerns, because there are amendments that council members are proposing tonight that none of us have seen, and we've asked for those to be delayed until we can have an opportunity to look at it. So tonight, we should just be voting on the actual ordinance that has been presented to us on Thursday. And then after that, we'll continue working with you. And the planning staff has been more than willing and open now to continue working with TBA on addressing any issues. And there's going to be things that TBA may not ever win on, but there may be a few things along the way that we can work on and fix, or council will look at and make those changes. But you guys are not on trial tonight, so you don't have to be defensive of
Well,
anything
and
that
I'm
you've
certainly
done.
don't mean to
Sir,
be-
Yeah.
thank you, sir.
Can I make one quick statement? We're fully open to whatever the decision of the council is. And we're available and want to be involved because we are the frontline people. We're the folks that implement this thing. So we are, whatever the decision is, we're fully open and available to work out details.
Thank you.
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you. Marjorie Mayfield Jackson.